In the hospital with prostate problems, this one is part 2. Almost a year without any significant changes, but without warning, my PSA, or prostate-specific antigen, has risen. And this, of course, requires further investigation. Why has the PSA risen? I'm having no symptoms whatsoever, and everything, apart from my brain, appears to be about normal. And just for the record, my brain has nothing to do with the PSA level, it just works a bit oddly. In possibly a futile attempt to grab the attention of men of a certain age, I've put plenty of pictures of steam engines running during this episode. I think before I go any further, I'm going to play just a little bit of the previous video, just as a memory refresher. The last thing I have to say to you, if you've watched this video to the end, listen gentlemen, get a grip. If you have any problems with either your waterworks or even erectile dysfunction, it's not always what it may be, and even though Viagra or similar will solve the problem, there may be underlying health issues. If you get any problems whatsoever in that area, get some help from the medical profession. And if the information in this video saves just one life, then it's been worth making it. Before I get on with the prostate part of this video, I'd just like to say in this clip I'm setting the valve timing of a Stuart 1010V, and I'm doing it by setting the valve timing one cylinder at a time. Following on from part 1 of the video about my prostate problems, the results were inconclusive, the main problem being that the results of the biopsy did not agree with the MRI scan. And it is this issue, in conjunction with speaking to a few people who have prostate issues, and even speaking to the relatives of other people who've died from prostate cancer or secondaries. I may be wrong on this, and you're quite welcome to have a go at me about it, but I think I have found a tenuous link that may or may not be correct. I'm going to go back to a time when I was a computer engineer, and for around 8 hours a day I used to fix computers, and in my top jacket pocket was my mobile phone, and after a while my left nipple got sore. And it felt a bit wrong, a bit lumpy, and it was annoying me. And I wondered if it was the mobile phone that was causing the problem, so I removed the mobile phone from my pocket and started to leave it in the car. After a while, my left nipple, which was a little bit lumpy as well, went back to normal. In the last few years I've kept my mobile phone in my right-hand trouser pocket, so I wondered if this had a connection to the problem with the prostate. I mentioned it to my consultant surgeon, who said, "Oh no, there's no problem there because your pelvis is in the way and any radiation from the phone etc. won't get through the bone." But at 70 years of age, I no longer wear tight jeans. I usually wear fairly baggy work trousers, and the pockets in them are a bit sloppy, to be honest. They wander all over the place. So instead of the mobile phone being held firmly against the side of my pelvis, it slips round the front. And when I watch TV, I always lay on my left-hand side, and then the phone falls down right over the prostate, and the right-hand side of the prostate is where the lump is. As I mentioned earlier, I couldn't figure out why the biopsy should disagree with the MRI scan, the only difference being, after the MRI scan, I removed the phone from my right-hand pocket, and now most of the time I put the phone on something quite close to me, in the workshop or in the studio or wherever I am. And the plot thickens. I asked 4 friends of mine with prostate issues where they kept their mobile phone, and guess what? They kept it in their right or left-hand trouser pocket. Once again, these people are all old and none of them wear tight jeans, so the phone is not held against the pelvis, it flops about around the front. Recently, a friend of mine died, and I found out after he died that the problem started as prostate cancer. There were other issues, and what actually killed him wasn't cancer of the prostate, it was secondary cancer originating from the prostate. Allowing a little bit of time to elapse after the funeral, I asked his son-in-law where he kept his phone, and guess what? He kept it in his right-hand trouser pocket. I may be entirely wrong on this, but somehow there is a pattern emerging. It could be the fact that I'm sat on this traction engine, and this is vibrating all my internal bits and causing the problem, but somehow I doubt that. When I made this video, for instance, I did have my phone in my right-hand trouser pocket, and if you look closely at the image, you will see that I do wear baggy trousers. Unfortunately, as I also mentioned earlier, the consultant surgeon dismissed my theory, assuming that I wore jeans like I did when I was younger, and the phone was held against my pelvic girdle. I would like people watching this to have a think about it and ask their friends who have prostate issues whether or not they keep their mobile phones in their trouser pockets. In this video, I don't think anyone should complain because you're getting plenty of shots of steam engines running, as well as prostate gland useful information. The big problem with prostate cancer is generally the lack of any symptoms. In my case, I do not have any symptoms at all. And the elevated PSA level was only found out in a blood test, which was a general blood test. I'm not unduly concerned, but I'm not making light of this. Prostate cancer is very serious indeed, as is any cancer, because basically a lot of cancers are not fixable. I've always tried to not take myself and life in general too seriously. That's why I sort of laugh and joke about things that maybe are not quite as funny as I think they are. Like, for instance, the way my father died. It was a bit of a tragedy. He died with everyone around him screaming and shouting, as he accidentally drove his bus off the cliff. By the way, that was a joke, a play on words, not to be taken seriously. My father died of bladder cancer, like Fred Dibner. And I'm not going to mention much about that. It's not that it's sort of going to upset me. It was like watching a horror film, but that's another story. Google it if you want more information. A couple of days ago, I had another MRI scan, and this time it was different. I was much higher up in the machine. So I think they're looking for a higher resolution image. Anyway, the general idea is for the consultant surgeon to look at the new MRI scan, and then she wants me to go into hospital for a minor procedure known as a transperineal biopsy. I'm not particularly worried about this because I will be unconscious when they do it, because the procedure is performed under a general anaesthetic. A friend of mine has prostate cancer, and he had a procedure known as brachytherapy. This was 8 years ago, and now his PSA is 0.002 or something negligible. Mine stayed fairly level at 6.59. I had 3 blood tests with that figure, and then suddenly I had another blood test and it was 7.1. And according to my GP, to whom I spoke, he said that was a very low figure and he'd seen PSA results into the thousands. After 2 blood tests last year, I was supposed to get a phone call from the consultant surgeon on the 2nd of November. This was cancelled shortly before, moved to the 13th of April this year, then cancelled again and moved to the 20th of April, and I finally had the phone call on the 20th of April 2023. I'm not going to start criticising the National Health Service or the NHS, because the phone call was last Thursday, and this Friday that's just gone I had the MRI scan, so it's moving okay. I've had an incredible stroke of luck though. My former GP when I lived in Dewsbury, West Yorkshire, who'd been my GP for many years, and I used to fix his computers, so I got to know him and we're sort of friends. Last week I called him on the phone, and I said to him, I'm really sorry to ring, but I need some information. Once when my mother had an aortic aneurysm, aged 79, he did say she had a 1% chance of survival, but she did survive. and lived a further 7 years until all the vital organs finally packed up. Anyway, I digress. Back to the phone conversation with my friend, the retired GP. This extremely useful phone conversation lasted just under 1 hour, and it was the best 1 hour I've ever spent on the phone. And the interesting thing was, some of his advice was based on his own experience. Anyway, what he said to me, top and bottom, there was a lot more in between, is, at the age of 70, do not have the prostate removed if you don't have to, because you could end up with permanent incontinence. There are some alternatives, death being one of them. Sorry about that, I'll try and take things more seriously. There is a procedure known as brachytherapy, and a friend of mine had that procedure about 8 years ago, and now he has no problems whatsoever and a very low PSA level. By the way, as I mentioned earlier, he was also one of the people I asked where he kept his mobile phone, and he was the guy who kept it in his left-hand pocket. After this brachytherapy, he has no problems whatsoever, and he is now 79 years old. When I was having a moan at my local GP, who I currently use, he suggested that I mention to the consultant surgeon something called BRAN. This BRAN is an acronym, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with bowel movements. The acronym BRAN, B-R-A-N, stands for benefits, risks, alternatives, and nothing. Let me explain. So you have a medical problem, for instance, prostate or whatever it may be, and the surgeon is recommending a procedure. So you ask, what are the benefits of this procedure? What are the risks of this procedure? Are there any alternatives to this procedure? And what happens if I do nothing? Some aspects of this BRAN acronym are worth considering. My logic as a musician who makes steam engines says, why bother with another biopsy, transperineal or otherwise? Why not go straight for the brachytherapy, which as far as I'm aware involves seeding the prostate with stainless steel pins, which are radioactive. And who knows, a possible side effect of the brachytherapy being radioactive could make it so that my genitalia glow in the dark, which, to be honest, at my time of life could be useful. As I mentioned in the top tip video that I made the other day, which was part 4, I currently don't have a female partner anyway, and I've had 2 wives and I don't want any more of those, thank you. The point being that it was the investigation of erectile dysfunction that showed the abnormal PSA level in my blood test. The reason I make videos like this from time to time is really maybe to try and save a life or two. Generally speaking, men do not like their dangly bits being messed about with, especially where a hospital, needles, surgery and scalpels are concerned. Having said that, human sexuality does take many forms, so I can't really say that some people may not actually like the idea of needles, scalpels and sharp pointy bits being near their genitalia. It's just a case, I suppose, of whatever turns you on. What I'm asking in this video, and the whole point of making it, is, has anybody else had a problem with a mobile phone in a pocket in baggy trousers near their prostate? And if that's where you keep your phone, just to be on the safe side, take it out and put it somewhere else. The phone, that is. The bottom line is, if you keep your phone in your trouser pocket and you're now having prostate problems, please let me know via a YouTube message. Please be aware though, I won't be able to reply to all of them because I don't have enough time as it is. And by that, I don't mean that I'm terminal, it's just that I'm very busy. That's it for now. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you found this video informative and useful. And a final word. Come on, gentlemen, when you get to a certain age, check your PSA level. It's worth doing. Please take the time to visit my Mainstream Models website. Click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you will find it very easy to find other videos that you may like to watch.